Imagine standing at the edge of a vast forest, just as the day exhales its final light. The air feels different here, cooler, thicker, almost alive. The leaves shimmer faintly, and every breath seems to hum with something ancient, something watching. You close your eyes, and for a moment, the forest breathes with you. Inhale the scent of moss and rain. Exhale the quiet sigh of a million leaves. This is the world's oldest rhythm, the breath of the earth itself. Hey there, and welcome to Science for Sleep. Tonight, we're wandering into the living lungs of our planet, the forests. They are not silent. Every root, every leaf, every flutter of wing above you is part of an ancient conversation still going on while you rest. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you'd like, tell me your city and local time in the comments below. I love seeing where in the world you're listening from. Now, if you're ready, let's begin. When you look up, you're not just seeing trees. You're gazing into a cathedral of light branches that weave into architecture more intricate than any temple built by hands. The canopy above you is a living sky, layered in shades of green and gold, filtering the sun into a gentle dream. Each leaf is a cell in an immense body, each trunk a pillar of time. Together they draw in carbon, breathe out oxygen, and steady the pulse of the planet. The air you're breathing right now may have passed through 1,000 leaves before it found your lungs. Some call it photosynthesis. But here, beneath this breathing ceiling, it feels more like prayer. The forest doesn't hurry. It inhales slowly through the morning mist, exhales through the cool of night. Its breath flows in ways we can't see, invisible rivers of vapor rising toward the clouds. Scientists call it transpiration. The trees call it living. Each drop of water drawn from the soil travels upward, through vessels thinner than hair, pulled by sunlight and the soft suction of life itself. When the droplet reaches a leaf, it slips quietly into the air, merging with millions of others to make clouds. In a sense, forests don't just breathe, they dream the weather into being. If you listen closely, you can hear it. Not the rustle of wind, but the slow murmur of energy moving from root to leaf, from soil to sky. The creak of old bark shifting under growth, the soft fall of needles and leaves like whispers landing on the forest floor. Even silence here has texture, a language older than words. Every forest has its own voice. The rainforest speaks in humid chorus, frogs and insects, and the far-off drumming of rain. The northern taiga hums low, wrapped in frost and echo. The mangrove murmurs with tide water and salt. Yet beneath these differences, there's one shared rhythm, one breath that unites them all. It's the sound of carbon and oxygen trading places. The quiet work of balance, happening every moment since long before we were here. The forest's breath is patient. It stretches across centuries. The oak that stands before you tonight may have started life when your great-grandparents were children, and its ancestors may have stood when humans still painted on cave walls. Time here doesn't rush, it pools. Each ring of growth a small echo of past sunlight. Each seed a stored memory waiting to wake. Close your eyes for a moment. Picture light spilling through the leaves like liquid gold. A beam catches the wing of a bird, the spiral of a fern, the shimmer of dew suspended on a spider's thread. The air glows with particles of life, pollen, spores, the breath of trees. You breathe in that same mixture, the forest entering you as you enter it. There's no boundary, only exchange. Every inhale you take completes a story. The trees began millions of years ago. When early life crawled from the sea, it was plants that taught the world how to breathe. Before lungs, before even air, there was photosynthesis, the slow alchemy that turned sunlight into oxygen. Every green thing since has carried that gift forward, unbroken, to this very night. So when you breathe now, you're part of that lineage, a thread of living air stretching from the first moss on stone to the trees outside your window. You can feel it even if you're far from a forest. Maybe you're in a city where the hum of traffic replaces the rustle of leaves. Yet the breath still finds you. The oxygen in your blood, the cool night air in your room, all trace back to green hearts beating somewhere far away. Every breath we take is a quiet thank you whispered to the unseen forests, still standing, still breathing, still giving. Sometimes, in that quiet exchange, the boundary between you and the forest blurs. The same molecules that leave your lungs might someday pass through the needles of a pine or the leaf of a fern. You and the forest share the same atmosphere, an invisible communion that unites all living things. It means that every sigh you release tonight will eventually return, perhaps as a raindrop, perhaps as mist curling above moss, perhaps as a new breath drawn by another living being. In this way, nothing truly ends. It only changes form from wind to breath, to leaf to sky again. And so the canopy above is more than shade. It's memory, circulation, and promise. A vast, breathing organism where each part supports the other. Beneath it, life moves quietly but endlessly, sap rising, seeds falling, soil forming, rain returning. Every element of the forest is a part of this cycle, like lungs expanding and contracting in perfect calm. Let yourself imagine lying beneath those trees now. The ground soft beneath your back, the sound of a distant bird folding into the hush. You feel the slow pulse of the earth, the same pulse that beats within your chest. You realize it's not just you breathing anymore, it's the forest, breathing through you. So rest now. Let your breath match the rhythm of leaves swaying overhead. Inhale the patience of trees. Exhale the noise of the day. The forest doesn't rush, neither should you. Its breath is endless, and tonight it welcomes you into its quiet flow. Beneath the quiet surface of every forest lies another world, dark, hidden, and humming with unseen life. It is a world without sunlight, yet filled with movement. Roots stretch through the soil like slow lightning, branching in endless directions, searching for water, for nutrients, for each other. And when they find one another, something extraordinary happens. The forest begins to speak in a language of touch and chemistry. Imagine kneeling in the damp earth. You brush aside the fallen leaves and glimpse a tangle of roots, hair thin, pulsing gently with water. They are not just anchors, they are the forest's veins, the connective tissue that allows every tree, shrub, and fern to share what it has. Some roots run deep, piercing meters into the ground. Others stay near the surface, weaving between stones and threads of fungus. Together, they form a network vast beyond imagination, a hidden internet of life. Scientists call it the mycorrhizal network, a partnership between plant roots and fungi that links nearly every tree in the forest. Through these fungal threads, called mycelium, sugars, and minerals, flow from one tree to another, as though the forest were one immense organism breathing through 1,000 mouths. The fungi trade nutrients for carbon, connecting one life form to another in a relationship so complex that it blurs the line between individual and community. A seedling struggling in the shadows may receive a silent gift glucose from an older tree, pulsing through filaments thinner than a hair. A mother tree, towering and ancient, might sense the chemical distress of her kin nearby and send help. Water, nitrogen, fragments of strength. When one tree falls, its roots decay, and the nutrients return to the network, feeding new life. Nothing here is wasted. Even death is conversation. You could walk through this forest for hours and never know the drama unfolding beneath your feet. A tree bitten by insects releases defensive chemicals into its roots. Within hours, other trees hundreds of meters away begin producing their own toxins, warned by the underground signal. A fungus senses drought and adjusts its connections to divert moisture toward younger, thirstier saplings. To the eye, the forest seems still, but beneath the silence, a dialogue of molecules and impulses flows constantly, a slow, whispering intelligence written in the language of soil. Some researchers compare it to the human brain, neurons exchanging electrical impulses, building memory, forming a kind of distributed awareness. Of course, the forest doesn't think in words or images, but it does respond. It learns. Experiments show that trees connected by mycorrhiza grow faster, recover better, and adapt more wisely to changes than isolated ones. The forest, in a sense, behaves as one organism, a vast, ancient body with many hearts and many minds. If you could see it as light, the forest floor would glow like a galaxy. Mycelial filaments would stretch out like constellations, delicate silver threads looping around roots, stones, and tunnels of insects. Each node, each intersection, each shimmering point of energy would pulse faintly, like starlight traveling through darkness. And just as galaxies exchange matter and gravity, the forest exchanges life. The fungi themselves are the hidden architects of this system. They weave threads called hyphae through the soil, turning dead leaves into nutrients, reshaping stones into minerals plants can use. Without them, the roots would suffocate and the forest would fade. Every tree, every blade of grass owes its existence to these invisible artisans, endlessly recycling death into birth. Long before humans learned to write, fungi were already writing in the soil, sending messages through chemical gradients, marking boundaries, maintaining harmony. Some networks are so ancient that they predate the very trees they nourish. The same fungal species that feeds today's forest may have fed the first ferns millions of years ago. Through them, the memory of ecosystems persists, a lineage of cooperation older than the continents themselves. Close your eyes and picture it. Beneath the moss, beneath the roots, beneath the crawling insects, there is a slow pulse, the heartbeat of the forest. It beats in ions and molecules, in moist vibrations too small to hear. Yet if you listen with your imagination, you might catch its rhythm, the soft exchange between trees and soil, the way energy drifts downward, transforms, and rises again. This hidden world is what makes forests immortal. Even when fire passes, when trunks fall and branches rot, the network endures underground, waiting. Within weeks, green shoots emerge again, tracing the same invisible paths their ancestors once followed. It's as if the memory of the forest is stored beneath, not above, a biological echo of what once was, whispering instructions for rebirth. There's a humility in that idea, that strength doesn't come from standing tall, but from being connected from what lies unseen and silent below. Humans often think of roots as grounding us, fixing us in place. But for the forest, roots are not confinement, they are communion. A tree's true freedom lies not in reaching upward, but in reaching outward. The next time you walk through a forest, pause for a moment. Feel the ground beneath you. That firmness is not emptiness, it's alive, threaded with voices. You are standing on a living web that has felt every footstep of every creature that ever passed. It remembers rain, drought, fire, frost. It remembers you, too, your breath, your warmth, your presence among the trees. And perhaps, as you rest tonight, you can imagine those unseen filaments stretching beneath the world, connecting root to root, forest to forest, continent to continent, a planet breathing in slow harmony with itself. You are part of that breath. You always have been, high above the soil, where branches lace the sky and leaves tremble in the wind. The forest breathes in silence. Not the kind of breath you hear, but a vast, invisible rhythm, the slow exchange between earth and atmosphere. Every second, trillions of microscopic pores open across leaves, releasing moisture, absorbing gases, and weaving the chemistry of life into the air we share. What looks like stillness from afar is in truth a quiet heartbeat, the planet's hidden pulse. When sunlight warms the canopy, it stirs this rhythm awake. Tiny openings on each leaf stomata begin to part, like eyes fluttering open to the day. Through them, carbon dioxide slips in and oxygen drifts out, joining the breath of the world. This dance happens everywhere, in every moment, in every forest. It's the reason you can fill your lungs right now, wherever you are. If the forest could speak, it might say, "Breathe with me." But there's more to it than oxygen. The forest exhales water, two countless molecules evaporating through those same pores, rising gently into the sky. Each drop begins its journey as dew, or rain, or sap drawn from the soil. Through the miracle of evapotranspiration, it becomes vapor, drifting upward to form clouds. Those clouds may later drift across continents, releasing rain thousands of miles away. That means a storm that falls over your city might have begun as mist over the Amazon, or as fog lifted from a cedar grove in Japan. The forest's breath, traveling the world. It's strange to think that trees control the weather, but they do. In the Amazon, vast green expanses create their own rainfall, recycling moisture 5 or 6 times before it ever reaches the sea. When the air above the canopy thickens with vapor, pressure drops, winds shift, and clouds bloom like thoughts rising from the earth. Even temperature obeys the forest's rhythm. When leaves breathe, they cool the air. When they rest, heat builds. The forest is not a passive passenger in the climate. It is the conductor. And then there's the carbon. Every tree you see is a reservoir of what was once air. The wood of its trunk, the cellulose in its leaves, even the soil at its roots, all are made from carbon drawn out of the atmosphere, molecule by molecule. Through photosynthesis, trees weave sunlight and carbon dioxide into matter, building themselves out of the sky. When you sit beneath a tree, you are sitting under condensed air, shaped into strength by patience and light. Scientists call this the carbon cycle, but to the forest, it's simply breathing in with carbon, out with oxygen. Each breath binds the living and the inanimate, the sky and the soil, the human and the tree. Without this exchange, the air would thicken with poison. Instead, it stays balanced because billions of leaves keep working quietly while we sleep. They are our unseen lungs, and every inhale we take is a prayer answered by green silence. Now, imagine zooming out the forest, seen from above, from the drifting perspective of a cloud. What would it look like? You'd see a shimmer of moisture rising in ribbons from the treetops. Thermals twist those ribbons upward, merging into pale wisps that stretch toward the horizon. To satellites, these appear as faint fog belts, atmospheric rivers flowing from land to sky. It's breathtaking to realize. Forests are sculpting the air itself, shaping wind patterns, influencing where clouds are born, even where rivers will one day run. In the boreal north, the breath is slower. The cold air holds less moisture, and the trees spruce, pine, larch release their vapors cautiously, as though each drop must be earned. Yet the principle is the same. Even frozen forests inhale and exhale, though their rhythm may span seasons instead of seconds. The snow muffles their pulse, but it's still there, soft and patient beneath the frost. Life does not stop. It merely breathes in longer cycles. Some trees even change their breathing to survive. When drought comes, they close their stomata, conserving water at the cost of slower growth. It's like holding one's breath, a sacrifice for endurance. Others adapt through partnership. The tall redwoods of California drink from fog, capturing mist on their leaves and funneling it downward like liquid air. In the cloud forests of Costa Rica, plants sip directly from vapor, skipping the rain entirely. In every form, the forest finds a way to keep the air moving, to keep breathing. And what of us? Each breath we take mirrors that same cycle. Oxygen enters, carbon leaves. The boundary between our lungs and the forest's canopy is thinner than it seems. The same molecules your body releases tonight may one day pass through a fern, a flower, or a distant pine. In this way, the atmosphere becomes a shared language, a circulating memory of every living thing that has ever breathed. You are, in a sense, inhaling history. Close your eyes for a moment. Picture the air as a living ocean, invisible yet constant, flowing around your body, between the branches, across continents. Each breath you take ripples outward, joining the exhalation of forests, oceans, and all the creatures that sleep within them. It's not empty space, it's connection, unseen but real. The forest's pulse and yours are two beats of the same rhythm. Even the silence carries it. At dawn, when mist hovers between trunks, the light moves through that suspended breath, the vapor that left the leaves before sunrise. It catches the rays, scattering them into beams, and we call it beauty. But it's more than that. It's proof that the forest is alive and breathing, shaping light and air into art that lasts only moments before dissolving again into the wind. Some poets once said that the wind in the trees is the earth, sighing in its sleep. Maybe they were right. Every rustle, every whisper of movement in the canopy is the forest's voice in the atmosphere, a soft reminder that life is always exchanging itself for life. The air in your lungs tonight may have been inside a maple leaf this morning, or drifting over an ocean last week, or rising from a forest half a world away centuries ago. It's all the same breath, circling endlessly a quiet eternity of motion. So, as you drift towards sleep, feel that rhythm around you, the slow inhalation of night, the exhalation of the trees. In, out, the world breathing through you. Nothing to do, nothing to change. Just breathe. The forest already knows the rest. In the heart of the forest, the air never truly stands still. It moves in quiet spirals up from damp soil, along the trunks, through the canopy, and into the sky. The breath of millions of leaves mingles there, turning sunlight and moisture into clouds. When trees breathe, the sky listens, and sometimes the sky answers back with rain. You've probably never thought of trees as rainmakers, but they are. Each one acts as a small fountain, drawing water from the earth and sending it upward, droplet by droplet, until the air itself begins to shimmer with invisible vapor. This rising breath gathers, cools, and condenses into clouds that drift over mountains and plains. Hours or days later, those same droplets return as rain, the sky giving back what the forest once lent it. It's a cycle older than humanity, yet so delicate that breaking it even slightly can change the world. The great rainforests, the Amazon, the Congo, Borneo, are not just places that receive rain, they create it. The Amazon, for instance, releases about 20 billion tons of water vapor into the atmosphere every day. That's more than all the rivers on Earth combined. Every morning, as sunlight touches the treetops, this invisible ocean begins to rise, forming clouds that travel far beyond the forest's edge. When you see a thunderstorm rolling across a continent, remember, it may have begun as the quiet breath of trees. Scientists call this process the biotic pump, nature's way of circulating water across the planet. As trees pull water from the ground and release it into the air, they create areas of low pressure that draw in moist air from the oceans. This endless inhalation and exhalation sustains rainfall patterns for entire regions. Remove the trees, and the pump falters. Rivers shrink, skies dry. The once green landscape fades into silence. But within balance, the system is poetry. The forest doesn't force the clouds, it invites them. Each leaf offers a breath, each drop of vapor a promise. The atmosphere responds with thunder and light, not punishment, but renewal. When the first drops fall through the canopy, the forest seems to sigh in relief, as if welcoming an old friend home. The scent of rain, that earthy perfume called petrichor, begins long before the storm arrives. It's born when dry soil and roots release aromatic oils into the air, waiting for moisture. When raindrops finally strike the ground, those trapped scents burst free, filling the air with that unmistakable smell of homecoming. Every inhale you take after rain is filled with molecules that once lay buried beneath leaves, now lifted back to life. It's not just fragrance, it's memory, the forest remembering itself. High above, clouds formed by forest breath drift into colder air, thickening into storm banks. Within them, electric charges build as tiny droplets collide and separate, giving rise to lightning, nature's heartbeat flashing in the sky. Thunder rolls across the canopy, echoing through the trunks and soil. For a moment, the earth feels like one body, the trees exhaling vapor, the sky exhaling sound. Rain arrives not as chaos, but as rhythm. The first drops strike the leaves with a soft, ticking sound, each one a note in a slow symphony. The air grows cooler, denser, sweeter. Mist gathers around your face, clinging to your hair, your lashes. You close your eyes, and the sound deepens, drizzle turning to downpour, the world dissolving into silver threads. The soil drinks deeply, streams awaken, murmuring like sleepers turning in their beds. The forest exhales heavy, fragrant, renewed. Each raindrop's journey is long and full of transformations. It begins as vapor drawn from the ocean, lifted by heat, then condensed into clouds. When it falls into the forest, it seeps into the ground, feeding roots, filling veins of clay and stone. From there, it's lifted once more by the trees, back into the air. The same water may travel the circuit dozens of times before returning to the sea. Every drop you've ever touched, every sip, every tear has lived this cycle endlessly, a dancer moving between heaven and earth. Even in stillness, the forest continues to make rain. Fog drapes over ferns and mosses, condensing into droplets that slide down to the roots. Leaves catch dew at dawn, tiny mirrors holding the reflection of the sky. In cloud forests high in the Andes or Southeast Asia, this invisible rain is constant mist, so thick it drips from branches like melted air. These forests thrive on breathing the sky itself. And when the storm passes, a hush returns. The air is full, heavy with renewal. Sunlight breaks through, scattering prisms across every drop still clinging to the leaves. 1,000,000 tiny rainbows bloom at once. Birds begin to sing again, as if thanking the sky. The smell of earth deepens, grounding you in the moment. Everything, even the smallest blade of grass, glows with relief. If you could slow time, you'd see the forest preparing its next breath. Moisture rises once more, unseen but certain. Clouds will form again, and rain will fall again. The rhythm never stops. It only pauses for breath. Even in drought, the memory of rain lingers in the roots, waiting, patient, certain that the cycle will return. As you lie there, imagining this ancient conversation between trees and sky, feel your own lungs mirror it. Inhale, the forest draws the air upward. Exhale, the sky releases rain. Each breath you take is an echo of that endless exchange, earth breathing through you. There is no separation, no distance between your breath and the clouds drifting above. You are part of the weather, part of the pulse that keeps this planet alive. So, when the next storm comes and rain taps softly against your window, remember this. It might be the forest whispering from 1,000 miles away, sending you a message, a cool breath across the continents. And as you drift into sleep, the earth keeps breathing, making rain in its dreams. Beneath the green canopy and the shifting light, the forest hides something immense, an invisible treasury of life's most essential element, carbon. Every trunk, every leaf, every crumb of soil is a page in a book written in carbon ink. The story it tells is one of capture, storage, and renewal, the way the earth saves its breath. When we exhale, we release carbon dioxide, a gas that drifts skyward, transparent, weightless, forgotten. But the forest does not forget. Through photosynthesis, trees draw that same gas back into themselves, locking its carbon into wood, roots, and leaf. Each cell becomes a tiny vault, a molecule of air made solid by sunlight. In this quiet way, forests balance what the world exhales. They are the keepers of the planet's equilibrium, writing and erasing in cycles that stretch across centuries. If you could see time unfold in fast motion, forests would seem like immense lungs expanding and contracting across the continents. Each season, green sweeps north and south, with the tilt of the earth, the planet breathing in spring, exhaling in autumn. Carbon flows invisibly, not as numbers on charts, but as color, as leaf, as shade. Every year, the forest takes a breath of carbon and holds it close, storing it away for decades, sometimes for millennia. Deep in the soil, far below where roots twist and beetles burrow, the true vault begins. Here, carbon doesn't just rest in wood, it seeps into humus, peat, and clay, transformed by fungi and microbes into complex molecules that can remain for ages. A fallen leaf decomposes, releasing some of its essence back into the air. But part of it stays, folded into the dark earth, joining layers upon layers of past seasons. A single handful of forest soil can hold more carbon than a young tree. In the Amazon, the Congo, or the Siberian taiga, this buried wealth stretches for kilometers, unseen but vital, the lungs beneath the lungs. Scientists estimate that forests store about 1/3 of all carbon on land, more than all the atmosphere combined. Yet, they do it without effort or intention. They don't know they're stabilizing the climate, shaping weather, or balancing chemistry. They simply live, and in living, they heal. Every cell of every tree is a small act of restoration, a silent reversal of what the world releases in haste. A single mature tree can absorb about 20 kilograms of carbon dioxide each year. Multiply that by a forest, and by time, and by patience, and you begin to glimpse the scale of the miracle. It is slow, yes, but steady, an arithmetic of stillness. Where human industry burns and forgets, the forest gathers and remembers. And what happens when a tree dies? The vault does not vanish, it transforms. Some carbon returns to the sky, but much remains locked in wood that will take decades to decay. Fallen trunks become cradles for moss, insects, and fungi, continuing the chain of storage and renewal. Even in death, a tree serves the balance, a slow-burning candle in the endless metabolism of the earth. Sometimes, in places untouched by human hands, forests grow ancient and thick, their air heavy with the scent of time. In the swamps of Borneo or the peatlands of Siberia, layers of organic matter have been building for thousands of years. Press them long enough, and they turn to coal, ancient sunlight fossilized into stone. Every spark of coal fire, every drop of oil, is the exhaled breath of a prehistoric forest. We burn those ancient vaults now, releasing into the air what took millions of years to store. And still, somewhere, the living forests keep working quietly to repair the balance, to rewrite the equation of our existence. The exchange is endless, but delicate. When forests fall to chainsaws or flame, the vault doors open. The carbon they have guarded for centuries escapes within days. joining the sky's invisible tide. The balance tilts, the air thickens, and the climate trembles. It is not punishment only cause and effect, the echo of our own breath unbalanced. Yet the forest does not resent us. When left alone, it begins again. Saplings rise in the ashes. Soil, dark and wounded, starts storing carbon once more. Fungi return first, weaving through the debris, building bridges for roots yet unborn. Rain falls, seeds sprout, and the vault rebuilds itself. Life, it seems, has endless patience, a willingness to forgive, as long as there is still light and air to work with. There is a strange comfort in knowing that our atmosphere, our shared breath, depends on the quiet of forests. They do not ask for worship or attention. They simply continue, each leaf performing its chemical miracle with precision, each root holding the weight of air turned solid. If gratitude had a shape, it would be green. Close your eyes for a moment. Picture the great forests of the world, the dark Amazonian rivers, the misty pines of Canada, the golden birch of Siberia, the rain-washed jungles of Indonesia. Each one is a vast heart, pumping not blood but carbon and light through the veins of the planet. Each one is a vault, not made of metal, but of wood, soil, and breath. When you inhale now, know that some of that air once rested inside a leaf. And when you exhale, the forest will accept it back, turning your sigh into life once more. It is the most generous exchange imaginable, an endless circle between what we give and what we receive. So, as you rest tonight, imagine yourself lying within that balance. Breathe in, breathe out. The forest is already keeping your breath safe, tucking it into roots and rings and soil. The vault will hold it for you until the world needs it again. Somewhere in the quiet folds of the earth, there are beings so old that they have outlived empires, languages, and stars that once burned above them. They do not move, yet they have traveled through ages. They do not speak, yet they remember everything: the cold of ancient winters, the warmth of forgotten summers, the scent of rain that fell before our kind even walked upright. They are the ancient trees, the elders of the living world, the silent witnesses of time. When you step into a grove of old-growth forest, the air itself feels different. It is thicker, slower, as if each second must pass through centuries before it reaches you. The trunks around you rise like pillars in a cathedral, covered in moss and memory. You can almost feel them watching, not in judgment, but in calm endurance. For a tree that has lived 1,000 years, your heartbeat is a flicker, your lifetime a sigh in the wind. The oldest known trees on Earth, the bristlecone pines of the American West, have lived for nearly 5 millennia. They sprouted when the pyramids were young, when humans still measured time by the stars alone. Their bark twists like ancient script, their wood hardened by wind and salt and solitude. Even dead branches remain attached for centuries, the living and the dead intertwined in one body. They have seen glaciers retreat, deserts bloom, civilizations rise and vanish, and yet they still stand, quietly breathing under the same sky. Each ring inside their trunks is a memory, a year of sunlight, a season of drought, a whisper of fire. If you could read those rings like a book, you would find the story of the planet written line by line. The thickness of one ring might tell of a rainy year long before recorded history. A scar might speak of lightning or an earthquake or the fall of an empire far away. Time, in the body of a tree, becomes something physical, not a number, but a living archive. There are redwoods in California, older than the English language, cedars in Lebanon that once shaded ancient kings, olive trees in the Mediterranean that have watched over generations of prayers and wars. In Japan, the Jomonsugi cedar may have begun its life when the last woolly mammoths still roamed Siberia. In South Africa, the baobabs stand swollen and hollow like time capsules, their insides large enough to shelter families, animals, or entire stories. To sit beneath one is to sit under the memory of the world itself. What makes them endure? It is not just strength, but patience. They have mastered the art of slow living. A bristlecone pine adds less than a millimeter of growth each year, conserving energy against cold winds and rocky soil. Its roots dig deep, clinging to mountainsides where nothing else dares to live. Its wood, dense with resin, resists decay. And perhaps most important of all, it knows how to rest sleeping through storms, waiting for centuries if needed. This too is wisdom, to grow slowly enough to outlast everything. There's a humility to their existence. They never hurry, never compete, never conquer. They simply are. They give shelter without asking, shade without pride, and silence without emptiness. Their endurance is not defiance, it's harmony. They have learned to adapt rather than fight, to bend under wind instead of breaking. Maybe that is why they survive what we cannot. If you place your hand on the bark of an old tree, you can sometimes feel a faint vibration, the hum of sap moving, the whisper of life continuing within. It's easy to imagine that what you're feeling is the pulse of the earth itself. In a way, it is. For these ancient beings have roots that intertwine with fungi, rocks and water deep below, touching layers of soil older than any language. Each heartbeat of sap connects to the underground web that holds the planet together. Ancient trees do not exist alone. They are communities. An old oak supports thousands of species, mosses, lichens, insects, birds, even mammals. Its hollows become homes. Its leaves feed the soil. Its shade shapes the temperature. One elder can sustain an entire world. And when it finally falls, it doesn't vanish. It becomes part of the next generation. Its trunk, a cradle for seedlings, its nutrients shared, its memory continued through new roots. The forest has no graves, only beginnings. There is an old saying among ecologists: to walk in an ancient forest is to walk through time without leaving the present. Every sound, the crack of a twig, the call of a bird, the slow sigh of wind through branches, carries the echo of centuries. The same winds that brush your face once touched the leaves of trees that no longer stand. The same rain that nourishes your garden may have fallen once upon a grove of pines when mammoths still grazed the tundra. Time here is not linear. It circles, breathes, and returns. Perhaps that's why being among old trees feels healing. Their stillness slows your pulse. Their patience quiets your thoughts. You can feel the frantic ticking of modern life fade until only the rhythm of your breathing remains. It's as if the forest is teaching you something wordless, a reminder that endurance is its own form of grace, that living long isn't about resisting change, but about flowing with it. And so, when you next see a tree older than yourself, maybe in a park, maybe on a lonely hill, pause for a moment. Place your hand against its bark and listen. There is wisdom there, humming beneath your palm. It doesn't speak in words, but in patience, in endurance, in the rustle of leaves that have seen more dawns than you ever will. And if you listen closely enough, you might hear the faintest echo, the sound of centuries breathing through wood. When you fall asleep tonight, imagine those ancient trees standing quietly under the stars, their roots deep in the dark, their branches lifted like prayers. They do not need to move to travel. They do not need to speak to be heard. They are the witnesses of everything, the keepers of memory, the slow guardians of air. And while you dream, they will still be there, unchanged, holding the breath of the living earth, one heartbeat at a time. If you were to enter the deepest parts of the Amazon or the cloud-wrapped jungles of Sumatra, you might hear a strange sound in the night, not an animal, not the rustle of wind, but the slow creak of roots shifting beneath the soil. It is the sound of motion, of trees moving not fast, not far, but undeniably alive. For even the forest, in its infinite patience, sometimes walks. This idea once sounded like myth, a poetic exaggeration whispered by travelers and tribes. But it is true in its quiet way. In certain tropical wetlands, the roots of the Socratea exoryza, known as the walking palm, grow long and stilted like legs. When the ground shifts, when sunlight changes or soil erodes, the tree sends out new roots in the direction of better ground and lets the older ones die. In a single year, it may move just a few centimeters. Over decades, perhaps several meters. Slow, steady, deliberate, a migration you can't see unless you measure time in seasons, not seconds. To the tree, movement is survival. The forest floor is never still. Rivers change course. Storms reshape the land. Sunlight drifts as other trees fall or rise. In this living maze, to remain truly motionless is to risk death. And so, the forest moves not with steps or strides, but with growth and decay, retreat and renewal. Every fallen trunk opens a path for seedlings. Every patch of sunlight becomes a signal, a call to stretch toward life. Even trees that appear fixed are part of a slow migration. Over centuries, entire forests shift across landscapes, following rain, temperature, and soil. The boreal forests of the North spruce, pine, and larch have been moving for 10,000 years, creeping back after the Ice Age glaciers withdrew. In satellite time-lapse, their advance looks like a tide rolling north, continent by continent, a green ocean reclaiming frozen earth. Roots are the forest's legs, but seeds are its wings. Each gust of wind, each bird's flight, each animal's fur carries the forest onward. The jungle spreads not by force, but by generosity, a gift scattered by countless creatures that live among its branches. The fruits that fall and rot become new beginnings. The forest walks because it trusts its children to find new ground. And where the land is harsh, the trees still find a way to wander. In mangrove swamps, roots rise above the mud like knees, breathing air from the tide. When a storm erodes one side of a mangrove grove, the trees sprout roots on the other, reclaiming what was lost. They too shift slowly, reshaping the shoreline. What looks static to us is motion stretched across centuries. If you could watch from the clouds, sped up 1,000-fold, you'd see forests flowing like rivers of green, always moving, always breathing, always returning. Even the trees of the mountains wander. The pines and firs climb higher each century as the world warms, chasing the cool air their ancestors knew. At the same time, their roots loosen the rocks, shaping the soil for what will follow. Forests don't simply adapt to change. They carry the earth through it, dragging ecosystems behind them like ancient caravans of life. In the African savannas, the acacia moves in another way. When grazed too heavily, it releases chemicals that warn nearby trees, which respond by producing bitter tannins to drive animals away. The herd moves on, the trees recover. The forest moves through communication, a chemical migration of survival. Even in death, trees travel. A fallen trunk becomes a bridge for ants, a tunnel for snakes, a raft for seeds across flooded plains. When water rises, debris gathers roots, branches, fragments of bark and floats downstream, carrying life with it. A single log may drift for years, hosting moss, fungi, and tiny plants that will someday take root on distant soil. Thus, the dead carry the living forward. Every end becomes another step in the forest's slow journey. But the walking forest is not just a scientific curiosity. It is a metaphor written in wood. It reminds us that change does not always mean destruction, and motion does not always mean haste. The forest moves because it must, because to live is to adapt, and to adapt is to travel, even if only by inches. In its patience lies its power. Indigenous people of the Amazon say that the forest moves with purpose, that it follows the spirit of balance. When humans cut too much, the forest retreats deeper into itself. When it is honored, it expands. In their stories, the trees have memories and desires, moving to find peace where the noise of axes cannot reach. Science calls it ecology. They call it wisdom. If you listen carefully, you can sometimes hear that wisdom, the creak of trunks leaning toward light, the faint crackle of roots adjusting in the dark. It's not imagination. Sensitive microphones placed in forests have recorded the sounds of trees shifting, bending, growing. The forest speaks not in words, but in motion, tiny vibrations that together form a symphony of life reorganizing itself. Close your eyes now. Imagine the entire planet from above, as if you could see centuries passing in a single breath. Forests move like tides. Rainforests expand and contract with the rain. Pines march north. Mangroves edge closer to the sea. Savannas breathe with fire and regrow with rain. The earth is not static. It's a slow, living current of green flowing around its axis. And we, though smaller and faster, are part of that same motion. You might think you are standing still tonight, but the air you breathe, the food you eat, the wood in your home, all of it comes from forests that have wandered through time to reach you. They have walked across continents, survived floods and flames, and carried their breath through the millennia to make your moment possible. Even in your sleep, you are moving with them, a traveler in the great migration of life. So, when you drift into dreams, imagine the forest moving softly beneath the stars. Roots shifting, seeds drifting, the green tide gliding onward. The forest doesn't hurry. It simply remembers the way forward. And while you sleep, it keeps walking one quiet, patient step at a time. If you stand very still in a forest truly still, until your breathing slows to the rhythm of leaves, you might begin to sense something beneath the silence. Not the calls of birds or the rustle of wind, but a subtler vibration, a low hum, a faint series of clicks. It is not your imagination. It is the forest growing. For centuries, people believed that growth was silent, that trees, being still and voiceless, simply stretched upward, without a sound. But now, scientists know otherwise. Hidden within every trunk and stem is a soft music, too quiet for human ears, born from the movement of water and life itself. If you could listen through the bark, you would hear the song of the sap, the faint popping and hissing of tiny bubbles forming as water rises through microscopic tubes. Each sound marks a heartbeat of growth, the invisible pulse of the forest's veins. Inside a tree, water doesn't flow like in a river. It climbs, molecule by molecule, drawn upward by the pull of evaporation at the leaves. As sunlight warms the canopy, it creates a gentle suction, lifting water from the roots all the way to the crown, sometimes 100 meters above the ground. This movement is constant, day and night, a steady whisper of ascent. When air pockets form or pressure shifts, they release faint pops, the tree's hidden percussion, a rhythm that never stops. Researchers have placed sensitive microphones inside living wood and recorded what sounds like a rain of clicks and pulses, a secret language of hydration. In times of drought, those clicks become sharper, faster, almost desperate, as the tree fights to draw the last traces of moisture from the soil. During heavy rain, the sounds deepen, becoming slow and full, like sighs of relief. The forest, it turns out, has moods. It expresses joy and strain, thirst and peace, all through sound too delicate for us to hear without help. It's not only the trees. The soil itself hums. Deep underground, roots emit tiny vibrations as they grow, pushing through grains of sand and stone. Each root tip sends signals to the fungi that guide its way, chemical pulses that can be translated into audible tones. In laboratories, scientists have converted these electrical impulses into sound, creating eerie compositions where each note corresponds to a root finding its path. Listening to it feels like hearing the voice of the earth thinking in slow motion. And then there are the leaves. Under a microscope, each leaf is alive, with movement cells expanding, pores opening, chloroplasts shifting toward the light like slow, green eyes. This too creates sound, though so faint it's more vibration than noise. To plants, these tremors matter. They can hear in their own way. Experiments show that some plants respond to the frequencies of bees, opening their flowers wider when they sense the buzz of wings nearby. Others grow faster when exposed to the low, steady hum of wind, as if the air itself was singing them awake. If the forest could be played like an instrument, each species would have its own tone. The hollow trunks of bamboo might resonate like flutes, while the dense heartwood of oak would offer deep, slow bass. Together, they would form an orchestra so vast and subtle that the human ear could never capture it in full. A symphony composed not of melody, but of motion. Every cell expanding, every droplet moving, every fiber vibrating in harmony with the rest. The sound of growth is patient. It does not rush or rise like our music does. It lingers, looping endlessly between soil and sky. There are no beginnings or endings, only cycles, sap rising, leaves unfolding, seeds germinating, and all of it echoing through the stillness like a breathing world. When a new shoot breaks through the ground, the earth actually releases a soft crackling noise, the tiny rupture of soil being moved aside. It is the same sound, on a smaller scale, that mountains make when they grow. Even the fungi contribute their own notes. Mycelium, the threads connecting roots underground, emit faint electric pulses that can be translated into rhythmic beats. Some scientists have compared this to a primitive form of communication, as if the fungi were sending Morse code through the soil. Each pulse carries information. Water here, sugar there, danger near. The forest is a vast radio station, always transmitting, always listening. And though we cannot hear it with our ears, our bodies do feel it. The deep vibrations of trees resonate within us when we walk among them. They slow our heartbeat, lower our blood pressure, align our breathing. When you step into a forest and suddenly feel calmer, you are responding to those hidden frequencies, the slow pulse of photosynthesis and flow. You are synchronizing with the tempo of life itself. Close your eyes now. Imagine lying at the foot of an ancient oak. Beneath you, the roots stretch like fingers into the soil, humming with slow, steady energy. Around you, leaves rustle softly but deeper still. There's another sound, a silence so full it hums. That's the forest breathing in time with itself. That's the sound of eternity rehearsing patience. As you drift toward sleep, think of this symphony, continuing without pause. Sap moving upward like music climbing a scale. Roots pushing outward in gentle percussion. Rain tapping against leaves like applause from the sky. Every sound born from growth, every silence full of listening. The forest does not play for an audience. It plays for itself and for the simple joy of existing. And when you inhale tonight, remember that your own heartbeat joins that rhythm. You too are part of the composition, another instrument in the endless orchestra of life. The pulse in your chest and the hum in the trees are the same music, played on different scales. Listen closely. The forest is still growing, and so are you. When daylight fades and the last streaks of gold retreat beyond the hills, the forest exhales. Its warmth loosens, its colors dim, and a deep hush descends like a velvet curtain. To most, night seems like sleep, the world resting beneath the weight of stars. But in truth, the forest never truly sleeps. It only changes form. As darkness gathers, the green world rearranges its senses. Where light once ruled, scent and sound awaken. Moisture rises from the soil, and the air grows dense and fragrant, filled with the perfume of ferns, flowers, and damp bark. Creatures long hidden stir to life. Bats flicker through the canopy like shadows given wings. Frogs call to each other in the dark, their voices rippling across ponds like beads of sound. Moths, shimmering with unseen colors, find their way through air thick with the taste of nectar. For those who stay still long enough, something magical begins to appear. A faint green-blue light glimmers under fallen leaves, between rotting logs and along the edges of moss. At first, you might think your eyes are playing tricks, but then you see it again, the forest glowing softly from within itself. This is bioluminescence, nature's quiet lanterns. Mushrooms that shine in the dark, beetles that sparkle like tiny stars, bacteria that trace threads of light through decay. To walk through such a forest is to step into a living constellation. In some parts of the world, Japan, Brazil, Vietnam, entire groves glow after rain. The air seems to pulse with light, as if the earth were breathing through its pores. Each luminous cap of fungus emits a steady, gentle radiance, sometimes bright enough to read by. No flame, no heat, no electricity, just the chemistry of life, turning decay into beauty. It's humbling to know that what we often fear, rot, dampness, darkness, is also what creates these tiny miracles of light. Above, the canopy sways in silver wind. Leaves catch fragments of moonlight, trembling like mirrors. Owls glide silently between trunks, their feathers whispering through the air. To them, this world is not darkness, but clarity. Every movement outlined by the faint glow of stars, every sound etched into the cold air. The night forest is full of listeners, and if you stay long enough, you realize that you, too, have become one of them. The human eye adjusts. Colors drain away, leaving only shades of blue, grey, and black. Yet within that narrow palette, you begin to see more shapes you missed in daylight, movements so subtle they feel imagined. A fox slipping through the undergrowth, the gleam of eyes that vanish as soon as you notice them, the faint flutter of wings among the ferns. Everything here moves with purpose, yet without haste. Then comes the rain. In the dark, raindrops fall like liquid glass. Each impact releases the scent of petrichor, that earthy, nostalgic aroma that feels like home. The forest hums under the rhythm, a slow percussion that blends with distant croaks and chirps. To some, this might be chaos, but to the night forest, it is music, a lullaby written in water and time. The trees themselves seem to change at night. Their bark absorbs moonlight, their outlines blur, their silence deepens. What was once familiar in daylight now feels infinite. Somewhere between shadow and starlight, they take on an almost human presence, tall figures standing guard, breathing in sync with the wind. Ancient stories from every culture speak of spirits dwelling in the woods at night. Perhaps those tales were not born from fear, but from reverence, an acknowledgement that the dark forest is alive, aware, and older than language. In the tropics, fireflies join the scene, thousands of them, blinking in waves, their lights sinking to unseen rhythms. They rise and fall like embers from an invisible fire, swirling through the trees until the entire forest seems to pulse with one glowing heartbeat. Scientists have studied this synchronization and still can't explain its perfection, but those who stand within it need no explanation. In that moment, time dissolves, and you are simply part of the breath of the night. Beneath your feet, more lives awaken. Frogs climb, stems slick with dew. Snails emerge from their hidden chambers, tracing silver signatures across leaves. Even fungi stretch subtly toward the damp air, feeding, spreading, glowing. Every inch of darkness is alive, a theater of soft motion and quiet persistence. The night, you realize, is not an absence of life, it's a shift of perspective. The forest is as awake as ever, We are the ones who have been asleep. And then there are the sounds, the truest language of the night. Crickets chirping in overlapping waves, the rustle of small feet across dry leaves, the gentle creak of wood, expanding and cooling after the day's heat, the distant rush of a stream somewhere unseen. All of it merges into one continuous tone, a steady vibration that seems to come not from outside, but from within you. It's the same sound that hums through your blood when you lie still in bed, the body's own version of the forest's lullaby. When dawn approaches, the light doesn't so much arrive as it awakens. The black fades to deep blue, then grey, then the palest gold. The glowing fungi dim, the owls vanish, the diurnal creatures begin to stir. But for a few precious minutes, both worlds overlap, night and day sharing the same breath. You can almost feel the shift in the air, like a soft exhale after a long dream. As the first birds begin to sing, you realize something gentle but profound. The forest is never truly dark. It glows from within, in its fungi, in its creatures, in the quiet chemistry of its breath. It is light transformed, waiting for you to notice. So tonight, when you close your eyes, imagine that glow around you, faint, soft, constant. You are walking through it even now, though your room is still. You are part of that nocturnal rhythm, part of the quiet brilliance that turns night into another kind of dawn. And as you drift deeper into rest, let that thought settle. The forest never sleeps, and neither does life. Even in darkness, the world keeps breathing. Even in silence, the earth keeps singing. And somewhere, far from the noise of cities, a million tiny lights pulse in the dark, the living heartbeat of the night forest. At first, the forest seems still. But wait long enough, an hour, a day, a season, and you'll see that it never stops moving. Every moment, something small detaches, drifts, lands, and begins again. The forest reigns, not with water this time, but with seeds, the quiet, falling future of the earth. High in the canopy, branches sway with invisible generosity. Pods crack open, cones loosen, fruits drop with soft thuds onto the moss. Each sound is a birth, each motion a promise. In a single hectare of tropical forest, millions of seeds may fall in 1 year, a constant storm of beginnings. Some are tiny specks, lighter than dust, drifting on air currents like golden snow. Others are heavy and armored, their shells built to endure months or years before awakening. And each one carries a secret, an entire forest folded into silence. Seeds are the forest's way of dreaming forward. Where roots hold memory, seeds hold possibility. They travel by air, by water, by pore and wing and breath. The wind becomes their river. The rain becomes their road. Even animals become their messengers, unknowingly serving the green empire they live among. A bird eats a berry, flies for miles, and leaves behind a tiny gift that will someday rise into shade and shelter. A monkey tosses a half-eaten fig to the ground, where it sprouts between rocks and ruins. An elephant crushes fruit underfoot, pressing seeds into fertile mud. A single tree can scatter its children across kilometers, trusting wind and chance to carry its story onward. Some seeds are wanderers, others are sleepers. The lotus seed can rest for over 1,000 years before sprouting. The date palm seeds found in desert ruins have awoken after 2 millennia, greeting sunlight they could not have imagined. In the Arctic tundra, seeds lie frozen for centuries beneath snow, waiting for the warmth of a single good summer. Life, it seems, never gives up on itself. It only waits for the right moment to return. Others are far more impatient. The sandbox tree of Central America is nicknamed the dynamite tree. When its pods dry, they explode with a crack, loud enough to echo through the forest, flinging seeds at speeds of over 250 kilometers per hour. It's the forest's fireworks life, propelled by pressure and persistence. The blast scatters hundreds of new beginnings, each one landing in a different patch of soil, each one hoping for rain. The ocean, too, becomes a cradle for drifting seeds. Coconuts float for months across entire seas, carried by currents until they wash up on distant shores. There, they take root in sand, growing new trees that begin the cycle again. Every tropical island on Earth is partly born from this patience, from seeds carried by salt and time. The forest, it turns out, does not end where the trees do. Its children swim. Even the desert, the place we think of as barren, knows the rain of seeds. After a single storm, seeds that have slept for years burst open, painting the dunes with fragile color. Their flowers last only days, but those days are enough to make more seeds, enough to start the story again. In this way, even emptiness is temporary. Life is always waiting beneath the surface. The forest's rain is not random. It has memory. Some trees release their seeds only when the air is still, so they drop straight down to fertile soil. Others wait for wind, or for birds, or for fire. Yes, fire. Certain pines and eucalyptus trees have cones sealed with resin that can open only in heat. Flames, which seem to destroy, are actually midwives burning the old, so the new may begin. The next generation of forest rises from ash, its seeds awakened by the very element that ended their parents. Beneath your feet, seeds also move. Buried by squirrels or pushed into cracks by rain, they lie hidden in the dark. Some germinate within weeks. Others sense light through a thin layer of soil, knowing when to rise. Inside each one, a slow storm brews pressure building, walls softening, cells dividing. When the shell breaks, it's as gentle as breath and as powerful as thunder. A root slips downward, a shoot reaches up. The rain of seeds has found its echo, the forest's upward answer to gravity. Every seed is a gamble, a map without a destination. Yet the forest plays the odds endlessly, scattering futures like stars. Only a few will survive, but that is enough. The forest does not measure success in individuals, but in continuity. It trusts time more than numbers. It trusts life to find a way. Scientists have found ancient forests reborn from seed banks, buried deep in Arctic soil seeds, preserved for tens of thousands of years that, when thawed, still sprout. It's almost impossible not to see them as memory-living time capsules, carrying messages from a greener past. They remind us that life doesn't just endure, it prepares for return. Sometimes, when you stand in a forest after a storm, you can hear seeds falling soft taps on leaves, faint thuds on earth. It's an invisible rain, constant, patient, almost eternal. Close your eyes, and you can imagine it. Millions of tiny futures landing all around you, whispering begin again. The rain of seeds never ends. Even now, while you read these words, forests are shedding, scattering, renewing. The next generation is already on its way, carried by wind, water, and wings. And someday, long after we are gone, the seeds that fall tonight will rise into shade we will never stand beneath, and that is the truest form of immortality. So, as you drift towards sleep, picture it, a gentle shower of lightless rain, endless and kind, the hush of moss receiving it, the sigh of roots waiting, each seed, a small beating heart wrapped in silence, each one carrying the memory of sunlight and the certainty of return. And as you breathe out, imagine the forest breathing in the earth, catching your sigh and planting it somewhere new. Every forest lives because something is always dying. It's a strange truth, but a gentle one. A rhythm of endings, feeding beginnings, an endless exchange between what was and what will be. To walk through a forest after rain is to walk through transformation itself. Beneath your feet, Beneath the soft carpet of leaves, an entire civilization is at work, tireless, invisible, essential. They are the recyclers, the engineers, the architects of decay. Look closely at a fallen log. It seems motionless, abandoned. But within its bark, a universe unfolds. Tunnels, chambers, networks of tiny architects busy reshaping the past into the future. Beetles carve galleries through the wood, their larvae eating what once was solid heart. Termites, ants, and millipedes follow, breaking fibers into dust. And then, the true magicians arrive: fungi, moss, and microbes, dissolving what remains into the raw materials of life. Each one does its work without knowing the others. Yet together they form an orchestra of renewal. Decay is not destruction here, it is design. Every fallen branch is a blueprint, and fungi are the builders reading it. Their threads, called hyphae, reach through the wood like fine lace, secreting enzymes that unlock what sunlight and air cannot. Cellulose and lignin, the strong stuff of trees, become sugars, minerals, and humus. Slowly, patiently, the hard transforms into soft, the old into fertile. Where a giant once stood, a garden begins. The forest floor glows faintly with life even in darkness. Bioluminescent fungi shimmer among roots and moss, their green light marking the invisible progress of decay. It's an eerie beauty, death turned radiant. Each glow marks a feast in progress, where the remains of one life become nourishment for thousands more. It's a quiet festival, the kind the earth has been hosting since the first leaf fell. If you could shrink yourself to the size of an ant, you would see that the soil isn't soil at all, it's a bustling metropolis. A single teaspoon of forest dirt can hold more living organisms than there are humans on Earth. Bacteria and archaea, molds and mites, worms and nematodes, all working, all eating and excreting and building. The ground hums with chemistry. Carbon becomes nitrogen, nitrogen becomes protein, and protein becomes life again. From a distance, it looks like nothing is happening, but beneath, the city never sleeps. The scent of the forest, the deep, earthy perfume that follows rain, is the smell of this hidden work. It comes from geosmin, a compound released by bacteria when they break down organic matter. It's the smell of renewal, of the earth cleaning and reassembling itself. Every breath of it is an inhalation of life's recycling, the past turned into promise. Even fire, which seems to erase everything, becomes part of the plan. After flames pass, the ash left behind is rich with minerals. Certain fungi only appear in the wake of burning Pyronema and Morchella, the morels prized by chefs and foragers. They rise from blackened soil as symbols of rebirth, thriving where others would perish. For them, destruction is invitation, and in their wake, seeds germinate faster, nourished by what remains. Death, in the forest, is never the end. When a tree falls, it does not vanish. It lies down to give life. Ferns sprout from its bark. Moss spreads over its sides, drinking the moisture its wood holds. Insects lay eggs in its crevices. Birds feed on those insects, dropping seeds that take root in the softened wood. Soon, young saplings grow straight out of the fallen trunk life, emerging from what seems like ruin. In some forests, these are called nurse logs, and they can host dozens of new trees in their long, slow decay. Fungi, especially, are the unseen architects of balance. Their filaments stretch for kilometers through the soil, connecting roots, sharing nutrients, and digesting what no other life can. Without fungi, dead matter would choke the world. They are the cleaners of the planet, the ones who keep time moving forward. Each time they dissolve a fallen leaf, they are reminding the earth how to begin again. There's a strange comfort in this endless recycling. The same molecules that once formed the trunk of an oak may someday become part of a bird's feather or a blade of grass, or even your own body. We are not separate from decay, we are its continuation. When we breathe, we exhale carbon that trees will catch. When we die, we give back everything borrowed. The forest does not mourn this exchange. It celebrates it, quietly, through constant renewal. In ancient cultures, decay was never seen as filth, but as transformation. The Egyptians honored scarab beetles, creatures of decomposition, as symbols of resurrection. In Japan, fallen leaves are admired as much as blossoms, for they show the beauty of impermanence. Even in nature's temples, rot and growth share the same altar. At night, if you sit among fallen leaves long enough, you might hear faint rustles, the tiny architects continuing their work. The air is warm and fragrant. The ground feels soft and breathing. Every sound, every scent, every shimmer beneath the soil is a testament to life's persistence. You realize that death has never truly existed here. It is only movement, one form, slipping quietly into another. So the next time you see a fallen tree, don't think of it as broken. Think of it as becoming. Beneath its bark, the forest is sketching blueprints for its next chapter. It's building, not ending. It's remembering how to grow. And when you fall asleep tonight, let that thought rest with you. All endings are beginnings seen from the wrong moment in time. The architects of decay are already at work, turning yesterday into tomorrow, silence into song, dust into breath. The forest, after all, is not made of trees alone. It's made of transformation, and every sigh, every fallen leaf, every crumble of soil whispers the same phrase: nothing is lost, everything continues. At first, there is only silence, a silence heavy enough to make the air tremble. Then, from far away, a crack, a spark, a whisper of flame. It spreads through dry leaves like the memory of thunder, rising with a sound both terrifying and sacred. The forest burns, and yet, if you listen long enough, you'll realize it isn't only destruction, it's renewal. Fire, for the forest, is not an enemy. It is an old teacher. Long before humans ever struck stones together to summon it, fire roamed the world freely, a wandering sculptor, reshaping the earth with heat and light. Every forest that has endured the ages has learned to live with it, even to depend on it. Some trees need flame the way others need rain. It clears, it cleanses, it begins again. The first lesson of fire is balance. Without it, the forest would drown in its own abundance. Dead leaves and fallen branches would pile endlessly, choking the soil, suffocating the new. Fire returns what is finished to the air, turning wood into mineral ash, memory into nourishment. Its heat cracks the hard shells of pine cones, releasing seeds that have waited years for this very moment. The blaze may look like an ending, but beneath the smoke, the next generation is already stirring. In the pine forests of North America, the lodgepole pine has cones sealed with resin so strong that only fire can melt it. Without heat, they remain locked forever. When flames pass through, the cones pop open like applause, scattering seeds into the newly cleared soil. Within weeks, green shoots rise from the blackened ground. It is the forest's version of resurrection ashes turning to light. The same is true for the giant sequoias of California, those ancient towers that have stood for thousands of years. Their bark is thick and fireproof, their hearts designed to withstand heat. They rely on low fires to thin the underbrush and free their seedlings from shade. When fire is absent for too long, the forest becomes too crowded, too dark, too fragile. It forgets how to breathe. Then, when lightning finally comes, it burns too hot, too fast, too wildly, not as renewal, but as rage. Balance lost. This is why indigenous peoples across the world learn to work with fire rather than fear it. The Aboriginal Australians called it fire stick farming, using gentle, controlled burns. to keep the land fertile. Native American tribes practiced cultural burning, guiding flame like a brushstroke, painting renewal across meadows and woods. They knew what modern science would later confirm, that small, respectful fires prevent greater catastrophe. The forest must breathe, and sometimes breath means flame. Beneath the ground, during even the fiercest inferno, life endures. Seeds buried deep remain untouched. Roots sleep through the heat, wrapped in cool layers of earth. Certain fungi, like Pyrophilus and Morchella, awaken only after fire, feeding on the minerals released by the burn. Within days, they sprout bright mushrooms through the soot, the first color to return. Their spores drift through the air like tiny prayers, reminding the forest how to start again. And start again it does. When the rain finally falls, it hisses against the still warm ground, releasing steam that smells of iron and soil. Ash mixes with water to form a silvery paste that sinks into the earth, rich with phosphorus, calcium, and life. Tiny green blades push through within weeks, grass, fern, sapling fragile yet defiant. Birds return to perch on charred limbs, singing into the quiet like messengers of forgiveness. A blackened landscape becomes a canvas of renewal. It's hard for us, who live by the rhythm of fear and loss, to see fire as kindness. But the forest knows better. It understands that endings must come for beginnings to exist. It doesn't cling to the old growth, it trusts the cycle. In this way, the forest is wiser than we are. It lets go completely, knowing that nothing truly disappears. Even in the darkest night of burning, the forest remembers itself. Deep in its soil, the mycorrhizal networks survive, waiting for the signal to rebuild. They whisper to the first roots that return, sharing nutrients, guiding direction. Fire may erase what is seen, but the unseen always survives. And through that hidden persistence, life finds its way back to the light. There's a word ecologists use, serotiny, the process by which some plants require extreme heat to reproduce. It means, literally, to delay renewal until the right fire comes. Isn't that how all growth works? Sometimes, our own lives must burn a little the old ideas, the false certainties, the comfortable illusions before anything new can take root. Like the trees, we carry seeds that will only open in the heat of transformation. When you stand in a forest that has burned, you can feel it breathing again. The soil is soft, the air scented with smoke and promise. Charred trunks stand like monuments, their shadows long and elegant. Between them, green shoots glimmer under the sun, 1,000 beginnings rising from one great ending. You realize then that the earth does not mourn its scars. It wears them as part of its story. At dusk, when the wind moves through the renewed forest, it sounds different, lighter, freer, almost like laughter. The ash is gone. The ground hums with growth. If you kneel and touch the soil, it is warm, alive, forgiving. What was burned has become nourishment. What was lost has become room for light. So, when you dream tonight, imagine a forest glowing faintly under a veil of smoke. Imagine green spears pushing through black soil, rain falling soft and steady, and a faint hum beneath it all, the earth remaking itself. There is no fear in that fire, only memory, only patience. Because the forest knows the secret, we all forget. Sometimes, to live again, you must be willing to burn. If you spend enough time among trees, something curious happens. You begin to feel that they are not just alive, they are aware. Not in the way we are, with minds and words, but in a slower, deeper rhythm. The forest listens, reacts, remembers. It behaves in its own mysterious language, as if it thinks. Science hesitates with words like consciousness, but the evidence keeps whispering louder every year. Trees recognize neighbors and strangers. They share food with their kin more than with outsiders. They warn each other of danger, adjust to stress, and plan their growth to avoid conflict. If a tree senses shade from a rival, it redirects its branches to seek open sky. If its roots detect a friend, it weaves gently around them instead of through. Even without eyes or ears, the forest perceives. Communication here doesn't flow through air, but through the soil. Roots and fungi form what scientists call the wood wide web, a network so vast that in one forest, every tree may be linked to every other. Through it, they exchange nutrients, hormones, electrical impulses. When one tree suffers from drought, its distress signals flow through the mycelium, prompting others to conserve water. When a pest attacks, nearby trees begin producing defensive chemicals before the intruder even arrives. It's cooperation written in chemistry. The most astonishing part is memory. Some trees remember seasons of stress. After surviving one dry year, they alter their leaf pores to save moisture for the next. Others record damage in their rings, physical history etched into living wood. It's as if the forest keeps a diary written not in ink, but in growth. Each scar, each knot, each twist of bark is an entry. We endured, we adapted, we remain. And what of learning? Experiments suggest that plants can modify their responses through experience. In one study, researchers gently dropped mimosa plants repeatedly, a fall soft enough not to harm them. At first, the plants closed their leaves in reflex, protecting themselves. After several drops, they stopped reacting, having learned there was no threat. When exposed to a new stimulus, they responded again. The lesson held for weeks. In their quiet way, they had remembered. This is not thought as we define it, not reflection, not imagination, but it is intelligence, distributed and elegant. The forest thinks not in one place, but everywhere at once, across thousands of living nodes. Each root and leaf a neuron, each breeze a signal, each raindrop a word. It's a mind too vast for one skull, too slow for one lifetime. To understand it, you have to slow your pulse until your heartbeat matches the rhythm of the trees. Even light becomes part of this cognition. Leaves tilt and rotate to capture sunlight with mathematical precision, predicting the sun's path through the sky. When one branch casts shade on another, the lower leaves alter their pigments to make better use of what light remains. They collaborate, not compete. And when storms come, trees adjust their flexibility, their water pressure, their weight, as if calculating the right way to survive. All without a single brain cell. Fungi, the forest's neurons, play a subtler game. They transmit electrical pulses that fluctuate with conditions: dry soil, rich minerals, nearby roots. When scientists record those patterns and translate them into sound, they find rhythms that mirror speech, pauses, bursts, repetition. Some even call it the language of mycelium. It's not metaphor, it's information. The forest hums with conversation, not silent, just inaudible. But the thinking forest is not limited to biology. It's emotional too, in its own sense. A stand of trees under stress, drought, wind, or disease emits volatile compounds that can affect the mood and behavior of animals, even humans. The Japanese call it Shinrin-yoku, or forest bathing. People walking among trees show reduced stress hormones, slower heart rates, and clearer minds. It's as if the forest, through chemistry and rhythm, extends its calm to those who enter its domain. It thinks, and in thinking, it heals. Everywhere you look, patterns echo cognition. The fractal design of branches mimics neural networks. Rivers of sap mirror the flow of blood. The exchange of gases between leaf and air resembles the inhale and exhale of breath. It's easy to believe that forests and bodies share a blueprint, that evolution wrote one song and taught it to play in many instruments. Your lungs branch like trees. Your vines mirror roots. Your mind is a smaller forest, thinking in lightning instead of water. Perhaps that is why the forest feels so familiar. When you walk beneath its canopy, your body relaxes, as if returning home. Your pulse slows. Your thoughts widen. You don't have to believe that the forest thinks your body already knows. You are built from the same logic. In myth, ancient cultures sensed this truth. The Celts spoke of dryads, spirits of the trees who guided human destiny. In Africa, sacred groves were considered the homes of ancestors. The Amazonian shamans say the jungle dreams, and when you listen closely, it dreams through you. Science, myth, and instinct converge in one idea. The forest possesses awareness, and to enter it is to step inside a mind larger than your own. Imagine lying at the base of a cedar tonight. The stars shimmer through the branches like neurons firing in slow motion. You can feel a soft energy rising from the soil, wrapping around you. It's not imagination, it's chemistry, electricity, life. The forest is thinking, and you are part of its thought. One breath, one heartbeat, one fleeting idea in its long contemplation. And when you sleep, know this: the forest will continue its silent reflection, analyzing the wind, storing the rain, measuring the light, and remembering every touch of your presence. You are written into its pattern now, the same way a falling leaf leaves a mark on soil. Nothing is lost. Every encounter becomes a signal, another thread in the tapestry of the earth's living mind. The forest doesn't need to speak to be wise. It doesn't need to see to recognize you. It simply senses, learns, remembers, and keeps breathing. A single consciousness woven through countless lives, thinking quietly beneath the rustle of leaves, dreaming endlessly beneath the sky. There is music in the forest that no instrument could ever play. It begins where water meets light, two elements that never speak yet understand each other perfectly. Every drop, every glimmer, every shimmer of reflection forms part of a rhythm older than breath. It is the heartbeat of creation, the pulse that keeps the green world alive. Imagine waking in the forest at dawn. The mist is still suspended in the air, each droplet catching the first rays of sunlight like 1,000 tiny mirrors. The leaves above you tremble, heavy with dew, their edges glistening. As the light strengthens, water begins to move, falling, dripping, flowing, singing. A drop slides from the tip of a fern and lands on moss with a sound so soft you feel it more than hear it. Another gathers momentum, joining 100 others, until the forest floor hums with tiny percussion. This is the overture, the symphony's first breath. The forest conducts with precision. The canopy bends and filters sunlight into streaks of gold and emerald, arranging shadows into melody. Rays scatter through the fog, breaking into faint rainbows that drift between trunks. Each shaft of light is like a note held too long, trembling, luminous, eternal for a moment. The trees, standing silent, become instruments of reflection. They catch the light and bend it, weaving patterns across bark and soil. The forest, quite literally, plays the Sunday. As morning warms the air, the dew begins to evaporate. Moisture rises invisibly, joining the forest's breath. If you could see it, it would look like threads of silk rising upward, spiraling through branches toward the sky. This invisible flow feeds the clouds, which will later release their gift as rain. The water that vanished returns again, completing its verse in the endless composition. The forest's song, it seems, never ends. It only changes form. In the distance, a stream begins to speak. Its voice is constant, but never the same, whispering over stones, murmuring through roots, laughing at the curves it carves. Every bend adds a new note. Every pebble shapes the tone. If you close your eyes, you can tell where the stream widens, where it narrows, where it deepens, all by the sound. It is a song of persistence, of flow without fatigue. And in that sound, the forest finds its rhythm. Birds join next flutes of the canopy. They greet the day not as individuals, but as sections of the same orchestra. Their calls echo through layers of leaves, carried by air thick with warmth and scent. Each species occupies its own frequency, leaving room for the others. It's a balance no conductor could enforce, an intuition older than memory. The result is harmony, spontaneous and perfect. Then the wind rises soft at first, like fingers brushing the strings of a harp. It moves through branches, turning each leaf into an instrument. Some vibrate high and thin, like whispers. Others resonate deeply, like cellos. Together they create a vast, trembling chorus. The sound flows through you, through soil and air, through every cell that listens. For a moment, you are part of it, a single tone in the endless chord of being. And beneath it all, unseen but constant, is the rhythm of dripping water. It falls from leaves, from moss, from the hollows of trees. Each drop strikes differently, some sharp, some round, some barely audible. The forest floor, thick with roots and decay, absorbs the sound like a drum stretched with centuries. In some ancient groves, people say you can hear the earth breathing if you lie still enough. It isn't magic. It's acoustics, the symphony of water finding its way home. The light, too, continues its journey. By midday, it no longer filters softly but blazes through the canopy in columns of heat. The trees respond by shifting their leaves slightly, aligning them to absorb just enough and no more. This subtle choreography prevents exhaustion, a slow waltz of energy management. Every beam that lands becomes food, every reflection a memory. The forest's green glow is the visible form of that feast, sunlight transformed into sugar, into strength, into shade. When afternoon rain begins, the music deepens. Large drops thump onto broad leaves, smaller ones patter against ferns. Mist fills the air like a soft chorus. The wind falls silent to make space for the storm's melody. Lightning flashes far away, not violent, but illuminating, revealing the forest's inner shine for an instant. Then thunder answers, rolling through the trees like the voice of a god who speaks in echo. Water cascades through the canopy, flowing in rivulets down bark and vines, pooling briefly in footprints before sinking into the ground. Every drop that disappears carries memory of sky, of leaf, of light. And when the storm ends, the symphony shifts once more. The world glows. Every surface gleams with reflection, the air rich with petrichor. Sunlight breaks through the clouds, splitting into scattered rays that dance across the forest floor. Insects emerge and resume their part, the hum, the buzz, the fine, high-pitched violin of wings. A rainbow appears above the trees. Brief yet inevitable, the sky's applause for the earth's performance. You realize then that the forest is not just a place where light and water meet. It is that meeting, embodied. It's what happens when radiance falls in love with motion. Everything green is their child. Every leaf is a note of light turned tangible. Every drop that falls is a phrase in the long song of balance. As evening comes, the last light filters through the branches, golden and weary. The water calms, the air cools, and the song lowers its tempo. Dusk in the forest is not silence. It is resolution, the final movement of a day's concerto. The stream slows its voice. Birds hush. The wind fades. Only the faint gurgle of hidden springs remains, echoing the melody that began at dawn. And somewhere deep beneath the soil, the water prepares to rise again, ready for tomorrow's verse. So, when you breathe tonight, imagine that rhythm surrounding you. Inhale the brightness of morning. Exhale the calm of rain. You are part of that cycle, one more vibration in the great harmony of the world. Your body holds water drawn from ancient rivers. Your cells contain sunlight millions of years old. You are quite literally, made of this symphony. And as you close your eyes, you might still hear it faint but eternal. The drop, the ray, the pulse, water and light composing forever, and the forest, quiet but awake, playing the song of life beneath the stars. A forest is not only a collection of living beings, it is an archive, a breathing library written in wood and leaf, in scent and shadow. Every tree, every ring, every scar records what has been. Droughts, storms, fires, migrations, the laughter of rivers long vanished. To walk among trees is to walk through memory. If you touch a trunk and press your palm against the bark, you can feel it, the faint vibration beneath the surface, the quiet continuity of something that began long before you and will continue long after. The tree remembers you too, in its way. The warmth of your skin becomes part of its moment, a signal carried inward through sap and moisture. For a second, the boundary between your heartbeat and its pulse disappears. Inside each tree lies a perfect timeline of its life. The rings beneath the bark tell the story with scientific precision. One for each year, each a line of growth, each a page in a diary written by light and rain. Wider rings mean abundance, narrow ones mark hardship. Some show scars where lightning struck, or where insects carved through the wood decades ago. To read a tree's rings is to read history written in silence, a record not of kings or wars, but of sunlight and wind. In ancient trees, those rings stretch backward through centuries. A single redwood may hold 1,000 years of memory, a bristlecone pine, nearly 5,000. Through their bodies, we can trace droughts that shaped civilizations, volcanic eruptions that cooled the world, floods that reshaped continents. Each pulse of growth encodes not only the life of the tree, but the rhythm of the planet itself. The forest remembers for all of us, and it remembers through scent. When a leaf is wounded, bitten by an insect, scorched by heat, broken by storm, it releases chemicals into the air. These are not cries of pain, but signals, messages carried by wind to nearby plants. They say, "Be ready, danger comes." Other trees receive those molecules and adjust, thickening their leaves, changing their chemistry, producing protective compounds. The air between them becomes a language, fragrant with information. It is memory in motion. Even fallen leaves remember. When they decompose, their nutrients return to the soil, imprinting traces of what the tree once absorbed. The next generation grows from that inheritance, carrying the chemical echoes of its ancestors. In this way, memory does not fade. It migrates downward, into soil, into seed, into future. The forest is not merely alive, it is continuous. Scientists now know that trees also share electrical signals through their roots. When light fades suddenly or drought sets in, tiny impulses travel through the network, warning distant parts of the forest. These signals are slow centimeters per second, yet they form an intricate pattern of awareness, a slow thinking across miles. It is the forest remembering itself in real time, a giant memory, distributed and eternal. There are other forms of remembrance. Stranger still, some trees recall the taste of fire. After surviving a burn, their next growth is stronger, thicker, more resilient. The heat leaves an imprint, not only on their bark, but in their genes, a coded lesson for the future. Others keep memory in rhythm. They open their leaves at the same hour every day, even when kept in constant darkness. Inside them ticks a hidden clock, set long ago by the rising and setting of the Sunday. Humans, too, are part of this remembering. The air we breathe carries particles of pollen from ancient forests. Every inhale contains fragments of time, invisible grains that once rested on flowers 10,000 years ago. Our bones hold carbon drawn from the breath of trees that no longer exist. When we speak, we exhale the same molecules they once released. We are, quite literally, speaking in the forest's memory. In some sacred groves, people whisper their wishes to old trees. They tie ribbons around trunks, carve initials, or leave small offerings at the roots. It's not superstition, it's recognition. Somewhere deep down, we remember that trees remember, that their patience stores more than data. It stores emotion, joy, grief, gratitude, all absorbed, never erased. A forest feels, not as individuals do, but as a collective pulse of being. When a forest is cut down, something vanishes that cannot be replanted. The new trees may grow, but the memory, the intricate history of seasons and songs and footsteps is gone. It's like erasing a vast library and replacing it with blank pages. That is why untouched groves feel different when you enter them. The air is heavier, more resonant, filled with centuries of recollection. It knows you are there. It welcomes you quietly, without words. The memory of trees is also written in sound. Wood holds vibrations long after they fade. Musical instruments made from old timber have richer tones, deeper resonance, as if they remember every rain, every storm that once shaped them. A cello built from an ancient spruce still sings with the breath of mountains. When musicians play, they are, in a sense, awakening the voices of trees. At night, when the forest falls silent, memory hums beneath the stillness. The leaves that fell yesterday begin their slow return to soil. The roots taste minerals left by ancestors. The wind repeats the same songs it has whispered for 1,000 years. Even moonlight seems to know where to fall on the same glade, the same trunk, the same story told again and again. If you lie down and press your ear to the earth, you might imagine hearing it, the faint rhythm of the forest remembering. It doesn't hurry. It doesn't forget. It simply keeps track of time by living through it. Memory, here, isn't something stored in the past. It's something happening in every breath, every cell. So, when you rest tonight, close your eyes and think of the trees. Think of their rings circling inward, endless and patient. Think of their roots touching the bones of those who came before. Think of their branches reaching into the air you breathe. You are part of their archive now. Your presence, your breath, your small warmth recorded in their silent, living pages. And when you wake tomorrow, the forest will remember you, just as it remembers the rain, the fire, the stars. Its memory is the earth's memory, a consciousness of continuity. And in that great remembrance, nothing is ever truly lost. Every sound, every sigh, every fleeting life is folded back into the story of trees, the story of us. There are forests so old, so steady in their endurance, that they remember the taste of ice. They grew beneath glaciers and beside volcanoes, watched continents drift, oceans rise, and climates swing from frost to fire and back again. They are the survivors, the green remnants of a world that once froze solid and then thawed, carrying the memory of cold inside their veins. When the ice ages came, almost everything changed. Mountains vanished under miles of glacial weight. Rivers slowed, turned to glass, and creaked under the pressure of eternity. Yet, even then, some forests endured small sanctuaries of warmth, hidden in sheltered valleys or along coasts where the ocean's breath softened the chill. These were the refugia, the last safe pockets of green on a frozen earth. There, ancient seeds clung to life, asleep beneath snow, waiting for a warmer age. When the ice finally began to retreat, those refuges awoke. Spruce and pine, birch and willow, the first pioneers followed the melting edge northward. They advanced one generation at a time, century after century, roots chasing the retreating frost. To us, it might seem like stillness, but to the forest, it was migration slow, unstoppable, deliberate. The world was remade, not in an instant, but in a breath that lasted 10,000 years. The taiga, the largest forest on Earth today, was born from that long patience. It stretches across half the globe, from Scandinavia through Siberia to Canada and Alaska, a vast emerald ocean under an ever-changing sky. In winter, it freezes so completely that even the sap sleeps. In summer, it erupts in light, its rivers of green shimmering beneath endless Sunday. Every pine needle, every patch of moss is descended from the survivors of ice, carrying the resilience of their ancestors in every cell. Step into one of these northern forests, and you can feel that endurance in the air. The cold bites but never feels hostile. It feels earned. The trees grow tall but thin, conserving strength. Their roots spread shallowly, for beneath them lies permafrost soil that has not thawed in millennia. They do not resist the seasons. They endure them. When snow bends their branches, they yield. When storms strip their needles, they wait. The secret of survival here is not strength, but surrender. In the southern hemisphere, other survivors tell a similar story. On the isolated islands of New Zealand and Tasmania grow Huon pines, King Billy pines, and Antarctic beaches trees that trace their lineage back to the supercontinent Gondwana hundreds of millions of years ago. When dinosaurs roamed, these trees already shaded the earth. Now, they persist quietly among ferns and mist, their DNA barely changed, their patience infinite. Some Huon pines have lived more than 3,000 years. Their roots often give rise to new trunks while the old ones decay. So the organism itself may be tens of thousands of years old, an immortal green lineage. In Antarctica, long before it became a desert of ice, there were forests too. Fossilized wood still lies buried beneath the permafrost rings, perfectly preserved, revealing that once, millions of years ago, the South Pole was a swampy, temperate world. The trees grew in half-year darkness and half-year light, adapting to rhythms we can hardly imagine. They thrived, then slept, then froze. Their remains now rest in silence, the ghosts of forests that remind us how dynamic this planet truly is. Every forest alive today carries that inheritance. Inside its seeds are genetic memories of drought, cold, flood, and fire. When seasons shift or climates change, the trees adjust not by panic, but by remembering. They sprout earlier, shed later, alter their chemistry to survive longer. It is evolution as recollection, life consulting its own past to find the right shape for tomorrow. Even in the tropics, where the air never freezes, the signature of ancient cold remains. Certain rainforest trees in the Andes and New Guinea show adaptations suited for chill-thick leaves, waxy bark, high-altitude endurance. Their ancestors once lived near glaciers before the climate warmed, and forests migrated upward. They are, in essence, children of ice living in warmth, carrying old habits like heirlooms. And perhaps that is the greatest miracle of all, that the forest remembers how to change. When the earth trembles, it bends but does not break. When the world freezes, it withdraws without despair. When heat returns, it unfolds again, quietly forgiving. Each generation hands its resilience to the next, until survival itself becomes a kind of wisdom encoded in sap and seed. Somewhere in Siberia, in a valley where winter lasts 8 months, a seed that fell 30,000 years ago was found frozen deep within permafrost. Scientists thawed it gently, planted it, and waited. To their astonishment, it sprouted a living flower reborn from an age of mammoths. Its petals opened beneath modern sunlight, bridging 2 eras of the Earth's memory. That single bloom was a message from the Ice Age. Nothing is truly gone if the world remembers. Forests teach this truth with every cycle of season. Spring after winter, green after white, song after silence. It's not a miracle, it's muscle memory. The earth repeating what it knows best, renewal. We too live because they did not give up. Every breath we take is borrowed from that long persistence, from chlorophyll that survived catastrophe. When you stand among ancient pines or beeches, or the cold whispering birches of the Arctic, you can feel that lineage humming beneath your feet. It's not nostalgia, it's continuity. You are standing on the triumph of patience. You are breathing the victory of endurance. The forest beneath ice and time is still here, waiting for the next thaw, the next dawn, the next chance to begin again. So as you drift into sleep, imagine the world long ago silent, white, vast, and a single green sprout pushing through the snow. That is the beginning of everything we know. The earth, waking from its cold dream, breathing once more. And in every forest that still stands today, that same breath continues ancient, calm, and eternal. There was a time when the forest covered more than half of the earth. Green stretched from pole to pole, unbroken, a single living organism, breathing through leaves and roots and rivers. It was the planet's pulse, soft but steady. But now, in only a few centuries, that pulse has begun to falter. The great breath of the earth is disappearing, and the silence that replaces it feels heavier than smoke. Every second, somewhere in the world, a tree falls. Sometimes it's to make room for crops, sometimes for cattle, sometimes simply for profit, measured in minutes. The rhythm is relentless, the sound of saws, the sigh of burning wood, the crack of splitting bark. Each tree that falls releases the air it once held captive, undoing years, even centuries, of quiet labor. The forest exhales too much now, and there are fewer lungs left to inhale again. In the Amazon, that vast, breathing heart of our planet, thousands of square kilometers vanish each year. From above, satellites show a mosaic of wounds. Green replaced by brown, river replaced by road, the fractal pattern of life turned into geometry. The smoke rises high enough to cross oceans. Scientists have measured it drifting over Africa, tinting sunsets with the faint ghost of burnt leaves. Even from space, the forest's absence is visible not as darkness, but as light lost. Deforestation is not just the cutting of trees, it is the erasure of memory. Each lost tree means the loss of soil stability, of insect habitats, of bird songs, of rain itself. Forests summon their own weather. They call clouds, guide rivers, cool the air. When they are gone, drought follows like a shadow. The rivers shrink, the soil cracks, and the sky grows mean. Without the forest, the world forgets how to breathe. The air we exhale becomes unbalanced. Carbon rises, heat follows, ice melts. And with each degree of warming, forests struggle harder to survive. Drought weakens them, fire devours them, pests thrive in the warmth. The balance tips further still. We are caught in the feedback loop of our own, making a mirror that reflects not the forest's patience, but our haste. Yet the story is not only one of loss. Even now, there are places where the green breath returns. In Costa Rica, in Rwanda, in China and Vietnam, reforestation efforts are turning scarred hillsides back into jungles. New roots sink into old soil, pulling life back upward. Birds return first, then insects, then rain. The rhythm begins again, faint, fragile, but real. It proves that life, given even a moment of stillness, will always try to recover its breath. In some places, abandoned farmland rewilds itself. Seeds carried by wind and animal drift into forgotten fields, sprouting into young forests without human permission. They grow in silence, reclaiming what was taken. These are the self-born forests, the quiet rebels of the earth. They remind us that restoration does not always need our intervention. Sometimes it only needs us to stop breaking what was never ours to begin with. But even restoration cannot bring back everything. When a rainforest burns, its soil loses the microbes that once made it fertile. The roots that held the ground dissolve, and the first heavy rain washes centuries of nutrients into the sea. A forest can grow again, but not always the same. Some species vanish forever, taking with them songs, colors, and genetic wisdom evolved over millions of years. Extinction is the silence that even forests cannot rewrite. There's a strange sadness in knowing that much of the oxygen we breathe today was produced by trees already gone. We live, in part, on the breath of ghosts, but perhaps that can be a reason to act with tenderness, to protect what still lives, to give thanks for what once did. The air entering your lungs this very moment might have been exhaled centuries ago by a cypress, a maple, or a fern that no longer stands. It lingers, recycled endlessly, the forest's last whisper carried through time. Standing in a remaining forest now feels like standing in a cathedral sacred, not because of belief, but because of fragility. You can sense the exhaustion in the air, the weight of all that work still being done quietly for us. Each leaf trembles with effort. Each root clings a little harder. Even the wind feels thin, cautious, as though afraid to disturb what remains. It's beautiful, and it hurts. And yet, there is resilience here too. Forests are older than our species. They have endured worse. They survived the ice ages, meteor strikes, and volcanic winters. They will adapt again if given time and peace. Already, scientists see evidence of this. Trees shifting their ranges northward, evolving faster than expected, forming new partnerships with fungi and microbes to resist drought. The forest's will to live is astonishing, almost defiant. Life refuses extinction, if even a single root survives. It's easy to feel despair, but despair is a luxury the forest cannot afford. It continues, regardless of us. Wherever a seed lands, wherever a droplet falls, wherever the sun still shines, life will rise. The forest breathes through cracks in pavement, through the ruins of cities, through the quiet corners of our neglect. It finds a way. Perhaps that's what the disappearing breath wants to teach us, not to mourn endlessly, but to listen, to slow down, to match our rhythm to the planet's, to give back the silence we've stolen, so the earth can exhale again. Because when we listen, we begin to hear the faint inhale beneath the noise, the slow recovery, the almost imperceptible return of green. The forest is not asking for miracles. It's asking for time. Tonight, as you breathe in, think of the forests still standing, the misty cedars of Japan, the damp oak woods of Europe, the rain-soaked jungles of Borneo. Each one is working quietly, folding sunlight into oxygen, sending its breath across the world to reach you. And as you exhale, know that your air will one day return to them, that you too are part of the cycle, one breath among billions. The forest's breath is fading, yes, but it hasn't vanished. It lingers, fragile but faithful, waiting for us to breathe with it instead of against it. And if we do, if we choose to listen, to protect, to pause, perhaps one day the silence will lift and the green pulse will return stronger than before. So close your eyes and feel it, that faint, patient inhale of the earth beneath your floor, beneath your sleep. The forest is still breathing, barely, softly, but still. And as long as it does, so do we. There is something in the air of a forest that medicine cannot replicate. It isn't only the oxygen, though each breath feels fresher, fuller, touched with a softness that city air forgets. It's something older, invisible, and precise, a symphony of chemicals, vibrations, and silence that heals the body the way a mother comforts a restless child. You don't need to believe in magic to feel it. You only need to breathe slowly, to listen, to stay long enough for the forest to remember you. The Japanese have a word for this: Shinrin Yoku, forest bathing. It doesn't mean swimming or exercise. It means presence, walking without goal, breathing with awareness, letting your senses dissolve into green. Doctors in Japan prescribe it as therapy. Patients wander through cedar groves or bamboo paths for hours, sometimes days, and when they return, something measurable has changed. Heart rate slow, blood pressure lowers, cortisol, the hormone of stress, drops, even immune cells multiply. Their activity boosted by compounds released by trees themselves. These compounds, called phytoncides, are natural aerosols that trees emit to protect themselves from insects and fungi. To us, they are medicine. When inhaled, they increase white blood cell activity, calm the nervous system, and reduce inflammation. The air of a pine forest is laced with them, especially after rain. That clean, resinous scent, sharp yet soothing, is the forest's version of perfume and protection. To breathe it is to borrow the tree's immune system for a while, but the healing goes deeper than chemistry. The forest repairs what speed destroys. In cities, every sound is sharp. Engines, sirens, notifications. Our attention fragments. Our minds grow restless. But in a forest, sound returns to its natural scale. Wind rustles leaves at frequencies that relax the human heartbeat. Running water synchronizes brainwaves to alpha states, the same rhythm as meditation. The forest doesn't demand attention, it restores it. Colors matter too. The spectrum of green that dominates a forest is not random. It sits at the precise wavelength that soothes the human eye, not too bright, not too dull. Psychologists call it the comfort color. Our retinas evolved among foliage. Our minds recognize it as safety. That's why even looking at pictures of trees can lower stress. But nothing compares to the real thing, to the play of shadow and light across leaves, the dappled motion that our eyes never tire of following. And then there is scent, that quiet language that bypasses logic and speaks directly to memory. The earthy perfume after rain, the dry sweetness of sun-warmed bark, the faint spice of fallen needles, all of it stirs something primal in us. It reminds the body that we belong to the soil, not apart from it. Each breath whispers, "You are home." Even our posture changes among trees. We stand taller, shoulders loose, breathing deep. Our bodies unconsciously mimic the vertical rhythm of trunks, the rise and fall of branches. The pulse slows, muscles unclench. When researchers measure brain activity in people walking in forests, they find more coherence between hemispheres, more balance between logic and emotion. It's as if the forest resets the instrument we've been overplaying. There's a spiritual medicine here, too, the healing that comes not from cure, but from remembrance. In the forest, time dissolves. Minutes stretch into hours without notice. The worries that seemed sharp in concrete rooms lose their edges. It's hard to hold on to anger when the wind moves through thousands of leaves at once. It's hard to feel alone when everything around you breathes with you. The forest teaches humility not through words, but through proportion. It is vast, patient, unconcerned with your noise, yet somehow tender in its indifference. In hospitals around the world, studies show that patients recover faster when they can see trees from their windows. Pain l'essence. Sleep deepens. The immune system wakes. Even prisoners in jails with views of nature commit fewer acts of violence. Something in us calms when we remember that life extends beyond walls. The forest does not judge, it only exists, and in that existence, it heals. Indigenous traditions have always known this truth. In the Americas, healers bring the sick to groves of cedar or willow, believing that the spirit of the trees absorbs pain. In Africa, baobabs are said to drink sorrow, their trunks wide enough to hold the grief of a whole village. In Northern Europe, oak and linden groves were sacred. People came to them not to pray for miracles, but to rest their hearts against endurance. Science is only now catching up with what humanity once felt instinctively. The cure is not separate from the forest. It is the forest. The healing doesn't end with people. Forests heal themselves too, constantly. When lightning splits a trunk, resin flows to seal the wound. When roots are damaged, chemical signals call neighboring trees to send nutrients. Even after fires, green shoots rise through ash, carrying the forest's equivalent of scar tissue stronger, more resistant, more alive. Every scar in a tree is a lesson in resilience written in wood. Maybe that's why being among trees feels like being among elders. They have suffered everything: drought, frost, lightning, loss, and still they stand. Their patience teaches without speaking. To lean against one is to lean against endurance itself. They are living proof that healing is not the absence of pain, but the transformation of it. If you walk slowly enough through the forest, you'll notice how everything tends to balance. Moss softens stone. Decay feeds birth. Silence absorbe noise. Even light and shadow take turns. Healing, here, is not an event, it is a constant process, a choreography of exchange. Every element gives what it can and receives what it needs. It's not perfection, it's equilibrium. When you leave the forest, its work continues quietly inside you. Your breath stays slower, your thoughts gentler, your senses sharper. The healing doesn't end at the edge of the trees, because you carry part of that ecosystem within you, in your lungs, your microbiome, your memory. The forest's medicine travels home with you, unseen but alive. Tonight, as you lie still, imagine that you are back among the trees. You can smell the damp earth, hear the distant call of an owl, feel the cool air moving through open windows. Each breath you take carries the same oxygen they made for you. Each exhale returns it as gratitude. Your pulse aligns with the rhythm of the wind outside. You are part of the exchange, healed, healing, and always being healed again. And somewhere far away, in a dark valley filled with mist, the forest breathes your name back softly. A reminder that even in the vastness of the world, you are never forgotten by the earth that made you whole. Even when we close our eyes, the forest does not fade. It lingers behind the eyelids, a pulse of green light, a rustle at the edge of memory. Somewhere deep within the human mind, trees never stop growing. They appear in our dreams, in our art, in our myths, as though part of our very consciousness depends on their presence. And perhaps it does, for as long as we've told stories, the forest has been our mirror. Every civilization has walked beneath its branches to find meaning. To the ancient Greeks, it was the realm of dryads and hidden gods. To the Celts, a sanctuary where souls spoke through oak and ash. In Africa, sacred groves were the homes of ancestors. In the Amazon, every tree was a guardian spirit. The forest was never just landscape. It was a living being, a consciousness older than speech. To step beneath its canopy was to enter a dream already in progress. In our oldest myths, paradise was not a city or a temple. It was a garden. Humanity's first home was green, and even when we were cast out, we kept searching for that color, that coolness, that breath. Every attempt at heaven, since then, from Eden to Elysium, from the hanging gardens of Babylon to the floating forests of science fiction, has carried the same image: life surrounded by trees. It is as if our souls remember something our history forgot. Even science, in its precision, cannot escape the poetry of the forest. Astronauts who see Earth from orbit often describe it not in numbers, but in feeling. They call it the blue-green marble, fragile, breathing, luminous. The green, they say, is what makes the planet look alive. It's what separates us from all the silent worlds around us. That green is the dream, the planet's memory of life continuing. Perhaps that's why we plant trees at beginnings and endings alike. At weddings, for good fortune. At funerals, for remembrance. At the birth of children, to mark time. Each sapling becomes a witness, a living bookmark placed in the story of our lives. Even in cities of glass and steel, we find room for them on balconies, in courtyards, along sidewalks, small green rebellions against forgetfulness. The forest dreams through us. When we imagine peace, we picture shade. When we imagine love, we picture roots intertwined. Even our metaphors borrow from it. Family tree, roots, branches, growth. Language itself remembers the forest, whispering its patterns into our speech. We have never really left it. We have only renamed it. And yet, the dream is changing. Each year, we lose more trees, more species, more silence. But loss has a strange way of sharpening memory. The less green we see, the more we crave it. Urban planners design vertical gardens that stretch up skyscrapers. Artists recreate jungles from recycled paper and metal. Scientists build artificial leaves that turn light into oxygen. Even technology, that great abstraction, finds itself imitating photosynthesis. The forest's logic has become our blueprint for the future. In laboratories, researchers talk of reforestation of the atmosphere, a poetic phrase for restoring balance. They plant drone-guided seeds, breed resilient species, and weave green corridors between cities. But beneath all the machinery, the real work remains the same. One seed in the soil, one breath shared between human and leaf. The dream of green doesn't need perfection. It needs persistence. Children, when asked to draw the world, still draw trees first. Not cars, not houses, trees. Thick trunks, wide canopies, roots that touch the edge of the paper. They seem to know instinctively what matters. Maybe that is the forest dreaming through them, reminding us of what must not be forgotten. In literature and music, the forest keeps returning too. From Dante's Selva Oscura to Tolkien's Lothlorien, from fairy tales to film, the woods remain our stage for transformation. Heroes enter lost and emerge changed, as if the trees themselves had rewritten them. It is the same in life. When we lose our way, we go walking into parks, mountains, paths lined with trees, and somehow, when we return, the world feels clearer. That is not coincidence. It is communication. The forest still speaks, even in dream. At night, the forest weaves its presence into our sleep. Studies show that people who spend days surrounded by trees dream more vividly, more calmly. Their subconscious fills with images of water, animals, and light filtering through leaves. The mind, it seems, heals itself by returning to its oldest habitat. In sleep, we go back to where we first learned to breathe. Even as cities grow and noise rises, there remains a quiet thread of connection. Somewhere on the planet, it is always night in a forest, always dawn in another. The breath never stops. It travels, circulating through time zones, through lungs, through leaves. When one forest exhales, another inhales. The earth dreams continuously, one green pulse moving from east to west, a lullaby sung in chlorophyll and mist. And perhaps this is the meaning hidden beneath it all. The forest is not a place outside us. It is an echo within us. When we plant a tree, when we protect a grove, when we pause to listen to wind through leaves, we are not simply saving nature, we are saving memory, saving imagination, saving the continuity of thought itself. Because if the green dream ends, the human one does too. So tonight, as you rest, let the dream continue. Imagine walking through an endless forest, its air cool and luminous. Every step feels familiar, every sound known. The trees glow faintly with the light of stars, their leaves whispering not in words but in emotion. They are dreaming with you, not around you. You are part of the great sleep of the earth, the gentle, eternal dream of green. When you wake, that dream remains. Every breath of morning carries the faint scent of leaves. Every shaft of sunlight holds a trace of emerald. The world, for all its chaos, still remembers how to be calm. The forest's dream continues not just in roots and branches, but in us. And maybe, when the last human voice falls silent one day, the forest will still be whispering, its canopy stretching upward, its roots sinking deeper, the dream of green humming softly through eternity. The night is quiet now. The forest has stilled itself, as if listening to its own heartbeat. Even the smallest creatures, the moths, the frogs, the whispering wind through reeds seem to have paused in reverence. You can almost feel the pause between two great breaths, that delicate moment where the earth neither inhales nor exhales, but simply is. If you breathe slowly enough, you can match it. Inhale the cool, damp air filled with the scent of moss and wood. Exhale the warmth of your body drifting upward to join the canopy's mist. It is easy here to forget where you end and the forest begins, because in truth, there is no boundary at all. The breath of the forest and your own have always been the same. Scientists say that every molecule of oxygen in your lungs has been exhaled before by oceans, by plankton, by leaves long fallen to dust. You breathe what ancient ferns once made. You exhale what will someday nourish new growth. Every breath is borrowed. Every sigh is returned. It is the most perfect symmetry in the universe. Life exchanging itself endlessly, never wasted, never owned. When you stand in the forest at dawn, this becomes clear. Mist curls like smoke from the soil, not rising but circling air, warm meeting cool, the unseen rhythm of respiration. Sunlight spills between branches, striking each droplet until it gleams like molten silver. Each glimmer is a memory of photosynthesis. Sunlight turned into sugar, into oxygen, into the pulse that binds the world together. Even silence, here, is full of breathing. The forest's respiration is slower than ours, too slow for the impatient ear. A tree inhales over hours, exhales over days. A forest breathes in seasons. The planet itself, perhaps, breathes in millennia, expanding and contracting in ice and thaw, in bloom and decay. What we call climate, the forest calls rhythm. What we call history, the earth calls one long breath. And so it has been since the beginning. Before animals, before birds, before even the sound of wind through leaves, the first forests filled the air with oxygen. They changed the atmosphere, making it breathable, transforming chaos into harmony. Their roots cooled the soil, their shadows tempered the heat. They gave the planet lungs, and we, in time, became part of those lungs, tiny extensions of their purpose, breathing the air they built. We have taken much from them: wood for warmth, paper for thought, shelter for our beginnings. And still, the forest gives. It never refuses. When we harm it, it grows back. When we cut, it heals. Even in its death, it feeds. The humility of the forest is infinite. It asks for nothing but time. If you've ever lain beneath trees long enough, you may have felt it, the pulse of life through the ground, faint but insistent, as if the soil itself were alive with heartbeats. That is not imagination. Roots exchange energy and information through subtle electrical currents. The same ions that flow through your neurons flow beneath your feet in the veins of the earth. You are part of a circuitry older than thought, and it goes deeper still. Every cell of your body, every drop of your blood, carries atoms that were once part of forests. The carbon in your bones was drawn from ancient air. The calcium in your teeth may have come from shells crushed beneath prehistoric trees. You are a reassembled forest, walking and breathing in temporary form. When you exhale, the forest inhales you again. It is not metaphor. It is truth written in chemistry. The eternal breath is not just the forests, it is the planets. It passes through oceans, mountains, rivers, and skies. It connects the living and the dead, the past and the possible. When you breathe out, that air will travel the world across seas, through clouds, into other lungs, other leaves, other moments. You are part of a continuity so vast it cannot be owned or ended. You are breathing with every creature that ever lived, and every one that will. In ancient myths, the earth was said to exhale souls at birth and inhale them at death. The Greeks called it pneuma. The Hindus named it prana. In Chinese, it was qi. In all languages, it means the same. The sacred breath that moves through all things. Science may measure its gases, its pressures, its temperatures, but even now, no formula captures its grace. Because what truly sustains us isn't the oxygen alone. It's the awareness that we are part of something continuous, infinite, awake. At night, the forest mirrors that truth. You can hear it in the rhythm of the crickets, in the sway of branches, in the hush between gusts of wind. Everything breathes, everything pauses. Even the stars seem to expand and contract in faint sympathy. The universe breathes two galaxies, moving apart and together, light folding into dark, energy turning to matter and back again. It is the same pattern, the same gentle inhale and exhale, scaled up to eternity. And here you are, lying quietly under the sky, following that rhythm. You inhale what the trees offer. You exhale what they need. You have been doing this your whole life without knowing. It is the simplest act and the most sacred the proof that you and the world are not separate, but two sides of one breath. Close your eyes now. Feel the air slide in, cool and smooth, filling the space behind your ribs. Hold it for a heartbeat, that brief moment of stillness before release. Then let it go, slowly, gently, without effort. You are not losing the air, you are returning it. It will find another home in a forest, in an ocean wave, in another living being yet unborn. The breath continues. It always continues. If the forest could speak in words, it might say, "Rest now, I am still breathing. You are safe inside my lungs." And if the universe could whisper, it would echo the same. Do not be afraid. Nothing truly ends. Everything becomes air again. So sleep, child of the forest, of starlight, of soil. Breathe as the earth breathes. The eternal breath flows through you, patient and luminous. You have never been alone in it. You never will be. And long after this night fades, long after all stories are told and forgotten, the forest will still be here, breathing, remembering, forgiving, carrying your sigh into the dawn of another world.